If you're planning your upcoming spring break vacation or maybe even looking ahead to summer vacations, do not spend more money than you have to. Make this the year you travel more for less. Today we are sharing 4 free resources and websites that will help you travel more and save money without sacrificing quality. Family travel expert and deal finder Kamree Price from Our Family Passport joins me to fill us in on all her secrets. So good to have you.
I'm so excited to be here. I love when I'm able to come.
Well, and it's so interesting. I think a lot of people think travel is so expensive, and especially during the peak seasons.
And it can be.
Right?
Like, we
get nervous, and sometimes we back away from doing it. But you've got a lot of tips, and you actually do a lot of these trips, like all of them, with your family of 6, right?
Yes, we have a blended family of 6, and we go to Bora Bora and Bali and Japan and all the things for so cheap.
It's incredible to watch. I follow along, and I just can't believe you only spend the small amount of money on these big trips. So what would you say is the biggest key for your success?
So there's a few rules that I like to live by. The one is being flexible, and that's kind of tricky. As moms, we like to be rigid. Planning ahead is really helpful. And then we really do maximize points and miles, and we're really strategic about where we book and how we book.
Okay, let's dive into these a little bit. So the first one, plan ahead and plan early, which I can appreciate. I can definitely do that one. The flexible one we got to talk about because that one's harder for me. But plan early. So what would you say when we're thinking about spring break or summer break? How are we doing that?
The sweet spot when you are a bigger family, because you're looking, I mean, we have flights for, you have what? You have family of 5?
We have 4.
Yes, so there's 4 of you. So it's a lot. You're trying to get a hotel, we need 2 hotel rooms.
Yeah.
We need flights for 6. So the sweet spot for bigger families is about 6 to 9 months in advance.
Okay.
You can find last minute deals, but a lot of times it's harder to find those last minute deals for a family of 6 than it is, for a couple, right? So as early as you can is ideal because it gives you time to find the deals. It gives you time to put price trackers on. It really does give you that time. So right now is what I'm suggesting. Most people should be planning their summer vacations right around
now. But you say to still keep track of things and keep your eye on things as you get closer. Why? What's happening then?
Because it's all in supply and demand. Okay. So if a flight doesn't get booked, then there can be a price drop, right? So I like to keep track, and then what you can do, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, you can request a fare adjustment. And most people don't even think about that, but all major US airlines, if you are not booking the very, very basic, so for Delta, it's the Delta Basic, right?
Yeah.
So that's where you can't even choose your seats, which I don't recommend that for families anyway.
No, yeah, that's
But
hard.
if you do main cabin and above, if the price drops, you can get a fare adjustment, and then you'll get e-credits in return.
So is that what you mean by book and rebook?
Yeah, so book, keep an eye out on things, and if the price drops, rebook it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now these flexible dates.
Yes.
And my kids are getting older. I feel like the flexibility has gone way down as far as when they're free. We can't miss as much school. So talk me through this a little bit.
Okay. So this is where planning early and then being flexible can help.
Okay.
So, and you don't have to be flexible, like a week flexible, but it could be, all right, maybe I leave on my spring break 1 day early and I come home 1 day earlier. So it's having flexible dates around the times that you're wanting to go. Flights can be cheaper on a Monday than on a Sunday if you're traveling certain places. It's just all supply and demand. And so being flexible in your dates and looking at the flexible date calendars is incredibly helpful.
Okay.
But again, it's giving yourself enough time to even be able to do that.
Okay, I like the small flexibility. You're like either leave a day early or a day late, kind of be flexible within the time frame that you're already looking at, which feels very doable.
Yes.
Okay, and I imagine that really helps with those big families as you're planning,
For sure.
right? Okay. Then the next thing. Do we book the hotel first or the flight first? It's like the chicken or the egg. Which one comes first? What do we do?
So my strategy, this is what I do, this is what I teach my clients and what I teach everyone on social media. Do the most expensive thing first.
Okay.
So if you're going to Disney tickets are astronomical, right? So get an idea, look at the calendar. All right, when is it cheaper? When does it work for our schedule? If you're going to Europe, flights are gonna probably be a lot if you have a larger family. So then start looking at flights first. And then you can kind of start just plugging everything else in. But if you can get a deal on that most expensive item, then you've already cut that budget so far.
Now, when you're looking at hotels and flights, are you booking directly on the hotel's website or the airline's website, or do you use places like Expedia and Priceline? I never know where to go.
So I have a hack.
Okay.
I like to price out everything, but I always book direct.
Oh.
And because you can price match.
Really?
Yes.
So are you calling? If I'm using Delta and I find it somewhere else,
calling. Who wants to call ever?
I don't know. How do you price match? gosh, how
So
don't
there
want
are
to call
forms,
ever.
and we'll talk about this. But there's special
okay.
forms that you can fill out and you can do. Price matching airlines is tricky. You can't really price match them against like Kayak or whatever, but hotels you can price match if it's let's say that I want to go to the Marriott, JW Marriott in Cabo.
Yeah.
And I find a cheaper fare or a cheaper nightly rate on booking.com. I can fill out a form through Marriott.
Oh, okay.
And if I find a cheaper fare, or not a cheaper fare, a cheaper nightly rate.
Right.
They'll honor that cheaper nightly rate, and I get an other discount.
Okay, so we got a form. We don't need to make calls.
Yep.
Now you do have a couple freebies for us. So talk me through Google Flights a little bit.
Okay, Google Flights is such a goldmine of resources, and people use it wrong all of the time.
Oh, how so?
So Google Flights, you can price track. So that's huge. So we were saying you should be booking summer, and that is a good idea, but I just saw a price tracker come through on Google Flights for $400 round trip from Salt Lake to Kauai.
Oh, wow.
Which isn't like, whoa, amazing, but it's not horrible either.
It's actually pretty good for a Hawaii
for spring break, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So you can always set up free price trackers on Google Flights, and you can price track an exact flight, or you can price track a destination. It's super easy. But Google Flights has an incredible flexible date calendar, so you can look and see, all right, if I leave one day early to Hawaii, so if I leave on a Friday instead of a Saturday, it will tell you exactly. And then there's also a graph, so you can look at the data of, oh, when does Delta raise their prices historically? When do they drop them? And you can see, and it'll tell you, this is a low fare or this is a high fare. Like it basically tells you book now or wait.
Or wait. Okay, I love that. Helpful. Okay, we have time for like one more tool, and this one caught my eye because I wasn't familiar with it. Skyscanner, what's that?
Yes, so Skyscanner is a flight aggregate. It's actually based out of Europe. So what I like about Skyscanner, and again, I never book through Skyscanner. You use it as a tool to find prices, and then you go and book direct. But they have something that's called the Everywhere tool. So let's say you have waited a while to book, and you're like, crap, I want to go on spring break with my kids. I don't know what I'm going to do. You go in and you put in, I'm leaving from Salt Lake City, and instead of typing in a destination, you put Everywhere. Oh. And it'll tell you all of the places you can go. It organizes them by price.
That
so you
feels
can see like, oh, I can get a flight to Switzerland for
that's exciting.
$700.
I like that way. It's kind of like, let's just see what happens.
Yes.
All right, I know you've got a free course. You have so much more information. Where can we find it all?
Our Family Passport on Instagram, and then ourfamilypassport.com.
Thank you so much. These tips are so helpful.
Awesome.
Appreciate you.